2002 film adaptation of The Time Machine is firmly in the campy genre of science fiction, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a lot of fun. It's obviously got some differences from the book. There's differences from the 1960s adaptation. There's a romantic subplot which you got to have in Hollywood films. There's a new scenario about how civilization was destroyed by the moon breaking apart. And there's some other new characters like a Morlock leader and stuff. But the cast here, what's really interesting about this was the time. As much as I love the cast, by the way, Guy Pearce is this guy. I have loved pretty much everything he's done. He is a brilliant actor. He's also a brilliant musician. For those of you who don't know, really talented actor. He's the lead here, playing the actual time traveler. And the only other notable cast that I'm aware of, Mark Addy has a supporting role. And think about this is back in 2002. So Jeremy Irons plays the Morlock leader, and it is a bit part. At the same time that he played the bit part in that Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out around the same time, 2001, 2002, I think it was around there. So this is Jeremy Irons when he was doing some paycheck films and turning in these super over the top, campy, ham it up for the camera. I'm a bad guy, and I'm just gonna go whole hog into the role. So there is, like I said, campy is the nature of this film, but it is a fun, action-packed, very fast-paced movie. It doesn't really take up a lot of screen time. You're kind of in and out. I think around hour and a half is the runtime. I didn't actually check it, but I think it's right around an hour and a half. And interestingly enough, this was actually directed by, and I'm going to confirm this here. I think it was the great grandson. It was directed by the great grandson of H.G. Wells, one Simon Wells, who has directed some other films in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't think he's done a lot since then. This is sort of like, I think, one of the last hurrahs for him as a director. But essentially, the movie starts off with the character, as a professor. He has a relationship with a woman that he loves. He's going to propose to her. And in the course of the proposal, there's a mugging that goes wrong and she gets killed. And this starts an obsession with him to finish this mathematical equation he had to create time travel and to go back in time and change that past. When he finally does create the time machine and go back, he realizes that he can't change it. Because she dies again in a different fashion. So this creates this conundrum of, well, maybe I can't figure it out by going to the past. Maybe I need to go forward into the future and find out, maybe they know why I can't change the past. So then he goes forward, and this is where we get this new subplot of I forget what time it was, sometime in the future. He comes back. Maybe it says here, I'm going to go see if it tells me really quick. Travels to 2030 to discover whether or not science has discovered how to change the past. They have not. He then travels forward, and the machine gets rocked out of the time travel in 2037 with the accidental destruction of the moon by lunar colonists, which begins falling. All the moon rocks start falling down onto the Earth. And when he restarts the machine to try to avoid the debris, he gets knocked unconscious and then travels forward 800,000 years in time before reawakening. And that's when we get to I think what's sort of in the subplot of the original book, which is, here he is in this far, far future where he has these two subspecies of humans who have evolved from the original species, one of which are these like human-based, the Eloi, and then you have the others, which are the Morlocks, who hunt the Eloi, and they live underground. And so from here, he meets the new love interest, and, her little brother, and they deal with the attacks of the Morlocks, and then she gets captured, and he's got to go save her. And in the course of this, he meets Jeremy Irons' character, who's like this super uber Morlock, I think is what they call him in the film, who has telepathic abilities. And there is some discourse here on, being unable to change the past, and there's a battle, and on the time machine, he travels forward again into another way far in the future and finds a desolate landscape where the Murlocs have completely taken over. And he decides that, well, if I can't change my past, I can at least make this future uh, not happen. So he takes the time machine back to where this girl is, goes and rescues her completely, sets the time machine to destroy, like locks the gears in place, and it blows up and destroys all the Murlocs and all of the caverns and everything else, and he gets stranded in time with her, and he has a new life. And then there's a brief sort of epilogue at the end where his friends and the professor, played by Mark Addy, and his old housekeeper are there in London, sort of, or not in London, I guess they were in New York and Manhattan, but like quick commercial break, everyone, to give a shout out to our first official guild officer, Bubalonia, as well as all of the guild champions, and of course, all of the members who help keep me on the air full time. To join as a member, simply click that join button below and pick your tier, but you can also support with super chats on any live stream or premiere, or super thanks on any upload or YouTube short. Don't forget the Discord. Let's get back to the video. I forget where they were. It doesn't matter. That's not important to the plot. They're sort of, it's sad that he's gone. I wonder where he went, but hopefully he finds, his happiness in wherever he's gone. So it's a very short film, and it's unfortunate, I think, that it did okay at the box office. I don't know if it made its money back precisely. It said it had a budget of 80 million, and it did 123 at the box office, but I think it was considered a critical failure. Because people just didn't really like the fact that it was sort of jumping around a little bit, and it was a very fast-paced thing that was a rough adaptation of the book. But I think this is, in my mind, if I was the great-grandson of someone and I had the opportunity to adapt my great-grandfather's work, and I was given a modest budget to do so, obviously there's studios that are involved and screenwriters and everything else. This is a fairly good adaptation. If I had to give it a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably say this is probably in the 6.5, 6 to 7. But let's just say 6.5 to make it fair. There is some over the top, like kind of phoning it in performances by all of the cast. I think overall we get very good performances overall, but there are some moments in the early parts of the film between Guy Pearce and the original fiance and Mark Addy's character, as well as the housekeeper, which just feel kind of like a stage performance as opposed to an actual, it doesn't feel like there was a lot of takes that happened. It feels like they kind of just did rehearsals and they went with it, and that was it. And so there's kind of some, like I said, it felt like some theater performances as opposed to film performances, if that makes sense. And then, of course, Jeremy Irons doing his over the top. It's not as bad as the one he did in the Dungeons and Dragons film from around this time, but it's definitely up there. The Murlocs look like shit. They did what they could with the visuals, but they're not using CGI. They used masks. They actually did, prosthetics. They don't look very good. The animations and expressions are pretty horrific. So as far as special effects go, the time machine special effects were very well done. Like the CGI was exceptionally well done. And I like the robot librarian they added, who somehow manages to survive 800,000 years and still be in the future with them, and be able to provide resources for education to the Eloi. It's a fun element. But again, a little bit of ham, a little bit over the top. The prosthetics aren't that great, but the overall visual effects are pretty good. And it's just, like I said, it's a fun, fast-paced adaptation. It's worth your time if you've not seen it before and you don't have anything else to watch, but it's not necessarily something I would go out of the way to say you need to watch. Just my take on things. If you've seen it, love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Cris and I are going through a back catalog of a bunch of films we've seen over the years. Plus, we just watched the most recent Mission Impossible, which you need to actually get a review out on. And we've also been watching a lot of Nicolas Cage stuff as well. We did like Season of the Witch recently. Next, I think we've got Sorcerer's Apprentice coming up, which, by the way, is a phenomenal film. And a bunch of other stuff. So stay tuned until next time. See you, everybody. Have fun.